Good morning, everyone. Excuse me. Brian here again with BMK Retro Gaming. This morning I have for us the review of the Atari 5200 original library game Pac-Man. Now I want to mark this as a minor milestone as this is the very first Atari 5200 original library review, so finally getting around to that. Anyway, to go over the history some, as many probably know, the arcade cabinet original was developed by Toru Iwatani, I think that's how you pronounce it. He did the game design, and the programmers were Shigeo Funaki and Shigechi Ishimura, and it was published by Namco. That was in 1980. Then, of course, in 1982, we got from Atari Corporation, both on the development and publishing end, the less than nearly arcade accurate Atari VCS 2600 original library port, which is, for what developer Todd Fry was able to do with it, being based on an original design of his, and also within the limitations of the Atari VCS 2600 as compared contrasted to the arcade cabinet original, the differences in their capabilities was a vast gulf of difference. Well, it's a very, very bare bones port of Pac-Man, but, and again, not very arcade accurate, but it's still a decent enough Pac-Man game on its own, but it's not hard to see where it would have seemed pretty disappointing to many. Especially those who had already played the arcade cabinet original. I know some, like my friend Mr. Postile, Patrick V. Henry, they never played the arcade cabinet original at his home before they had the Atari VCS 2600 original library port, so they didn't know any better and thought it was still fine. That was Pac-Man to them, so it was all up to, your experience in a matter of perspectives. Anyway, in 1983, Atari Inc. developed and published the Atari 5200 port, which is a vast improvement. Apparently they learned that arcade accuracy, or being a fair deal closer, is much better than not. Now I own just a loose cartridge here, not in terrible shape. We can see it's got a little bit of wear to it. Could be far worse though. Let's see, it says here 1982 in Atari Incorporated. And it does mention that it was licensed by Namco, but it doesn't say when. And of course we have on the back the slot for overlays. I'm not sure if it ever came with any or not. I don't have them. I just have the loose cartridge. Anyway, this one is a lot. It's a pretty big improvement. Now, I would have preferred to do the, as I usually would when introducing gameplay on a new console, the original Pac-Man game. I would have preferred to do Super Breakout. But my the first of my two modern build reliable controllers, although in the works and should be getting on its way to me shortly, has not come yet. And I'm still waiting on that some, so we're going to play with just my original Atari 5200 controllers. I've got one which still works enough that I can control at least this. And it's in decent enough shape. I can't do everything with it, but for a game like Pac-Man, it works. So anyway, don't want to talk you guys' heads off too long for this one. I'm going to get this set up with my Atari 5200, and we're going to take a look into the gameplay. Okay, so here we go with the Atari 5200 original library port of Pac-Man. There's my button. Okay, and it's set on cherries, which as far as I know is the standard easiest difficulty setting. Even if I wanted to change it, the buttons for that don't work on this controller, so it wouldn't work. But here we go. Now, one disadvantage with the original controllers is, since the joystick doesn't self-center, you kind of have to remember to do it yourself after each really sharp turn or major move, but that's not a huge problem. It might trip you up a tad bit once in a while, but, whoa, cherries. Not the worst thing you would have to worry about. Okay, I'm not going to start off with a loss like that on the very first maze, so press start and it resets it, starts us up again. Hopefully I can get the pattern better here. Bit rusty on this one. It looks and sounds pretty good. Actually it looks a lot, almost identical to the ColecoVision prototype version, which I reviewed before, but there are some differences. I forgot to note on that one that it has something in common with this one, which is that the ghosts or maze monsters tend to have a look kind of like they have a dead eye or something. Aren't you? I'm not going to do it that way again. Try one more time to get it going the way I would like. The sounds are good. I mean, it sounds and looks a lot more like Pac-Man than, say, the Atari the Atari VCS 2600 port would have. Though still not perfect, the maze is a bit larger and a bit, wider than the arcade cabinet original. But other than that, these look like round dots for the most part. We have round power pills or pellets. And everything pretty much looks and plays about like what you would expect for Pac-Man. Oh, and unlike the Atari VCS 2600 original library port, Pac-Man doesn't have an eye here. Something I understand was a point of consternation for some back then. I gave me that easy again, you little twerps. And there's maze 1 done. Of course, it gets pretty quick before too long. It doesn't take long before the speed picks up. Both that of your Pac-Man and that of the ghosts or monsters. The speed tends to increase pretty well on this one, and it doesn't take too long to happen. A few mazes and you're cruising along here. Aha! Got the strawberry. Oh, come on. Thank you. That's 2 done. And we have our first cut screen. Fortunately on this, the ghosts or monsters don't have that dead eye look, you know, they're actually filled in. They do on the main game screen, but I guess that may just be a limitation, you know, part of the way to, you know, save on what all is being graphically depicted and pixelated so that they can do more. I'm sure some of this is probably more intensive than what we might think. Darn it. Oh, tables turned, aren't they? Come here. Oh. Okay, they didn't turn that well. I think this is my last Pac-Man. Nope, just got an extra. I almost forgot. You get an extra one at about every 10,000 points. I just lost it for not being able to... Kind of got stuck. Oh well. There's that one done. You can see here by now, look at Pac-Man and the Ghost. They're moving a fair deal faster than they did earlier, so, ooh. And there's my game over. Guess we can afford to give it one more shot before I'm done. Again, starts off fairly brisk, but the speed does not take too many mazes before you are seeing a pretty good increase in the speed of all characters. As my friend James Witt or James Bradwood would probably tell everybody, one of the keys to a game like this is figuring out how to have your own patterns set down. For me, I would always go for getting them as much even when I can, as I will tend to go for trying to use the power pellets or power pills where I can to finish more of a maze. After all, that's one good way to get through it without a huge hassle over it. Oh, no, not that way. I think I've been able to complete 5 or 6 of these so far. Again, part of that is this original controller's joystick sometimes giving me hard time, as I'm not always remembering to center it the way I need to. Having to self-center it is one drawback, but otherwise, its freedom of movement with it being a analog rather than digital joystick actually makes it very, very easy to work with in many ways. Whoa, that was close. Closer than I would like. Cherries. No. One more shot and I'm done, I think. Don't want this video to drag on for too terribly long at one time. Got the cherries that way this time. The other thing that you might note about this is that the AI for the ghosts or monsters, like it is in many other versions or ports of this game and the arcade cabinet original, they are fairly intelligent. They see Pac-Man, they go for Pac-Man. Well, for the most part. Though they do have their own patterns to their behavior, which they all have programmed in, and you can kind of tell that it is kind of distinct here. I forget what all they are on their own, but I kind of remember reading somewhere about how, you know, each one has their own pattern that they tend to prefer to follow and will, so. Should got those cherries, but oh well. Darn you. Again, with things like the cutscenes and all, one of the interesting things that this game did, both in the arcade cabinet original and the ports, is it's one of the first character-driven type of games where it's telling kind of a story for you. There's a story behind what's going on in Pac-Man. And as you play through and see those, it kind of unfolds for you. Come on, please. Thank you. Always gotta remember to use that warp tunnel some to make for a quick escape where necessary. And darn it, I messed up my own little pattern there, but oh well. Yeah, the original Atari 5200 joystick on this controller is not bad at all for this type of game, really. Just have to remember to try and keep it self-centered on your own, since it's not going to do it by itself. Darn. And again, remember to take advantage of those warp tunnels some, because you're going to need them. And remember, the ghosts have their own good deal of speed to them, so don't take too many chances with them. I've also noticed before these little cutscenes, it doesn't seem like there's any way that anything you can press to just skip by them, so... Not really a bad thing with that, though, I wouldn't say. Ha! Think I was going to nail them that way, did they? Can't catch me. Whoa, yes they can. And that's the end of that for the most part. I think you guys have had enough, seen enough with the gameplay anyway. Okay, so that was Pac-Man, the Atari 5200 arcade port of Pac-Man, released in '83. Is it pretty good? I think so. Still not nearly arcade perfect, but it certainly looks, sounds, and plays a lot better than some others, like the Atari VCS 2600 original library Pac-Man port, which was, again, bare bones, but decent enough for what it was. Though also disappointing in terms of how much of a departure from the arcade cabinet original it turned out to be. But this one is much, much better, much closer, but still there have been even better done since, so. For its day, it was definitely a lot better. Has much more of the look, sound, and gameplay, and just overall, feels more like you're playing Pac-Man, and looks and sounds like it, so. Anyway, I do have a few recommendations and links for you guys. The first one is from Crow Capture. Next is Atari Revival. Then we've got 65 Gamer Guy, Atari Vintage Players, and Retro Game Clips. I'll also go ahead and include a link to the Wikipedia article on Pac-Man, the game, which also discusses ports like this some, for those who may care to read up on it a bit further. Big shout out to my Atari 5200 Facebook group. Love you guys over there, and hopefully the weather will stay nice this morning and y'all will get this video before too terribly long. It's supposed to be so, not too worried about it. In the meantime, if you keep an eye on my channel's announcement post for what the prototype, ProBrew, or Homebrew game review coming up this coming Sunday is going to be. I've got something that may arrive this week, so it may be a bit longer if I get it before I post one up or decide to choose one otherwise to emulate. So just keep an eye here on my YouTube, on my feed on Twitter and Facebook to find out what it's going to be in due time. And if you enjoy this channel's content, please feel free to like, share, and subscribe, and please don't hesitate to leave any questions, comments, or suggestions down in the comments section below. You guys take care, have a wonderful Wednesday, and hopefully I will see everyone back here again this coming Sunday, if not a bit before.